welcome back to Date with the Divas. If this is your first time with us, welcome. And if you're returning, well, I guess you're digging our flavor, and the Divas thank you for watching. We have some tea to discuss with you, so please, if you have that beverage of choice ready, grab it because the tea is hot and you will need some cooling off. And also, if you haven't subscribed, well, shame on you. Click on that subscribe button, please. And don't forget to like our videos. Also, hit on that notification bell so you are up to our latest and greatest videos. Ms. Marnita, are you ready to get us started?
I am ready. Good evening, divas. Good evening, entourage. Notice the color pattern going on. We want to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. This should be coming out right before Valentine's Day, and a happy Black History Month. And whatever else you may celebrate in February. Now, let's get into our tea. Something worth celebrating this past weekend was the Grammys. Did anybody watch Divas? Did y'all watch?
I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
here, there.
I
Okay.
completely missed it. I was pissed off. I missed it, so I had to watch it on some of YouTube's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I watched some of it, and then my power actually went out like in the middle of it. So
Oh,
yeah, I was able to catch some of it, but that good old LA storm knocked my power out. But I did see Jay-Z's Grammy speech kind of going around YouTube's. So, of course, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably saw that Jay-Z won it's the Dr. Dre. It's kind of like one of those lifetime achievement type awards that they started last year, and it's named after Dr. Dre. So Jay-Z is the second to receive this award, and he brought his lovely daughter, Blue Ivy, up on stage as he did his acceptance speech. So what's been going around the internet mostly is the clip where he talked about Beyonce not getting album of the year. We'll get to that, but he did make a lot of different points in his speech. So of course he started out with thanking the Academy, or the Grammy Society rather, for his award, but then he started airing his grievances with the Grammy Society. So basically he said, we just want y'all to get it right. So he goes into the history of back in '89 when DJ Jazzy Jeff and the
Oh yes,
Fresh
the Dr.
Prince,
Dre Global
the
Impact.
Dre Global Impact Award. Thank you, Lava and Joe. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. They received a Grammy, but it was not televised. And they boycotted the ceremony. And then up to '98, where Jay-Z himself was nominated for Album of the Year, but DMX had two #1 albums that year and was not nominated. So Jay-Z decided to boycott that year. And there we have the artwork from DMX's albums. So Jay-Z says, I just want y'all, I assume he meant the Grammy Society, to get it right, or at least close to right. So he acknowledges that it's art, it's subjective, but then he goes on to say, this young lady, and we all know he was talking about Beyonce. He didn't say her name because he didn't want to embarrass her, but he said, this young lady has more Grammys than anybody, yet she's never won Album of the Year. Make it make sense by your own metrics. It does not work. He goes on to say that some people were going to go home feeling robbed because they didn't get the Grammy that they felt they deserved. He also says some of y'all don't belong in the category. Now I want to know, and then he ends on a very positive note. I want to note that. He ends on a very positive note, tells everyone just keep showing up, keep showing up until you feel you get the accolades that you feel you deserve. So I want to know, you divas, first of all, we've been talking a lot about conversations like this. Was this the right place and time for him to air his grievances? And does it make sense that someone who has the most Grammys, we'll take her name out of it because I don't want your personal feelings about her in there. Someone who has the most Grammys has never won Album of the Year. Tell me what you're thinking, Marilyn. I think you had some thoughts on this.
I do, but before you get started, you said they boycotted. They partially boycotted.
Right, because they write it.
What?
They They
They watched it from
they
their
watched it
hotel
on
room.
TV,
That's
but
not
they
a
did not go.
boycott. No, that's not a boycott. Sorry. So I just wanted to point that out. That's not a boycott. Boycott means you
Yes.
don't watch it either. I'm sorry. They watched it from the hotel. Actually, I mean, you can say that it might not have been the right place, but I really respect that he did it. And he did it in a polite way. And we all know who he was talking about. I mean, you know what? Support your wife.
Mm-hmm.
I have no issue with that. I have no issue with that. And yeah, I am with him. Make it make sense. Like, how does she have so many Grammys and yet have not won the album of the year? And people who, barely have any Grammys for their songs are winning album of the year. Like, really make that make sense.
Okay. I'm about to stir the pot right here.
Thank you,
Stir it up, stir it
Michelle. Let's
Okay.
go.
So I had a lot of thoughts on these two questions. But let me start off by saying, no, I didn't think it was the appropriate time or place. I agree that he should support his wife, right? But you don't need to put other people down, right? The tail end of it saying other people don't belong or whatever it was, to me that was unnecessary. He could support his wife, he can stand up for his wife, but you don't need to push or shame other people. That's point number one. Point number two, like I said, I have a lot. If you want to throw shade, but don't try to be coy or cryptic about it, right? He didn't want to say her name. Everybody knew. So just be direct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to have issues with the Grammys, then have issues with the Grammys. Be consistent and either completely boycott or don't accept the award. And three, as far as his metrics for saying, right? I looked this up. Wikipedia, I don't know, it's not the most reliable source, but I think Beyonce was nominated 88 times and won 32 times, right? So mathematically or arithmetic, it's like 36%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Olivia Rodrigo was nominated, I think, a total of 13 times in 2 years, won 3 times. That's 23%. He is not actually saying, I mean, she's been nominated. And like he said, and the same thing that Victoria Monet said, right? This is subjective. Best is subjective, right?
Absolutely.
They are giving her nods or, whatever the props by nominating her.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't necessarily mean she should win. And
She's
if
being
you
acknowledged.
yes. And if you listen to the explanation, I think his name is Mark Ronson, when he was like explaining the different categories to his mother-in-law, Meryl Streep. Best song is different than best record. One is for the writer, one is for the team of producers and writers and whatever. So just because you're nominated in one category doesn't necessarily mean you should get you should win for the whole thing. There are different categories and there are reasons for the different categories. And I can go on, but I want to give other people the opportunity to
Thank you,
jump
Michelle,
in.
for breaking it
Well
down.
said.
Right.
Well
Well said,
said.
but I'm going to jump back in here real quick.
Yeah.
What I have issues, I know it's always said, we always keep saying, is it the right mechanism or right place? But when is the right place? And I'm just talking about not just the Grammys, but we always come up with that. When is it always the right time? He did it during he did it during his speech around his Grammy. I do not agree with him putting down people, Shella. Michelle, I definitely agree
think
that
he was doing that. I don't think he was putting any. I think that you guys are misinterpreting.
Yeah, I don't think he was putting in. I agree with you.
People don't belong in a category. I think we did a story on Nicki Minaj, who took issue with the category they placed her in because of her race.
Right.
She felt she was placed in best rap when she should have been placed in best pop artist. I think that's
for the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
But I get the gist.
He kind of said something that made you say, he's like, oh, I'm not going to really talk about that. Like if I recall correctly, and I could be mistaken, but I think
he said when I'm nervous, I tell the truth.
I tell the truth.
Right. So he started kind of like I took it when he was saying like certain people shouldn't be in categories that Not that he specifically was calling people out, but that's where it might have been implied that he was,
Not what he meant.
putting
That's
somebody down.
absolutely not what he meant. He meant
But
that.
do you know what he meant? I mean,
Yeah,
like, are you
I
there in his
listened to
head?
the
No.
speech several times, and I read an interview that he did after where he clarified that he was talking. He's there to advocate for artists. He was talking to the Grammy people who vote and the Academy, and the way they vote and the way they place people in these categories
is
and
not necessarily correct.
Right, because the people he's talking about are rap artists and they're Black artists. And so he was trying to make a point about race without actually coming out and saying
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for clarifying, because I did not see that article where he clarified on what he was trying to get across. I mean, but if you're just taking at face value and you didn't dig deeper, that's where it came across as that way. But thank you for the clarification.
And the okay, so two things, and I'm just going to just be quick of those two things that I took out, which you guys talked about, is he himself mentioned about the voting being subjective, but how can in one breath you say it being subjective and the next breath saying the numbers don't add up? So
what are we really talking about?
If the Grammys, and I don't know how they, is it by numbers, whatever, if there's some little mathematic behind it or something in addition to people saying, yeah, I want to vote for this one, I want to vote for that one. If it's just, hey, you got 12 votes and this is how we're going, then it is subjective and it is what it is, so it can't add up, quote unquote, and then it's interesting how some are saying him bringing up this topic, not the right place and time, when Taraji was kind of doing the same thing. And we're saying, well, when is the right time? And it is when it's a very sensitive topic. When is the right time? The right time is when that person is ready to talk at that time.
When it's exactly. It
becomes
it's personal for them.
It is what it is.
Talking about the Grammy Academy at the Grammys, speaking directly to the Grammy Academy. So I felt like that was the perfect time.
That's not the right time. Well, I mean, I don't say it's the right or wrong time. I'm just saying I could see why people are saying that it's not the right time, because this is an event. When you're talking to the Grammys, that's when there's a meeting, there's a this and that, and
press conference,
Grammys and or something like this. This is an event,
and I can do whatever I want with my speech.
Well, then Taraji could have done the same thing whenever she wanted and what have you.
Right.
This is what I'm talking about.
Nobody's arguing that Taraji wasn't within her rights to do it. My only argument about that, since we want to go back there, is that it hurt her movie. That's all my issue was with it, not with what she said.
Okay.
I just thought the timing could have been better so as not to take the focus.
The impact of the movie, exactly.
That's all I was ever saying.
And I get you 100%. I get you 100% of what you're saying with respect to that. But I'm talking in totality. Is when it is a sensitive topic, in my opinion, when it's sensitive, the right time to talk about it is when you
feel it's.
But Taraji herself said it shot her in the foot.
Okay, but still,
this is what I'm saying. You keep bringing back a particular point, and I'm talking about in a totality.
No, I'm saying each case is different. That's why it's a question of when it's the right time. Sometimes it is. Some people might think it's not. This is something that's debatable, which is why we're talking about it, right?
Yes, of course. Of course.
And that's the right time for one thing and not the right time for something else.
That's what I said.
Yeah. So this is the right time.
Exactly what I said.
Honestly, that was why I asked the question, because of the Taraji conversation that we Divas had. I was like, oh, I wonder what y'all gonna think about the timing of this. So I am glad that the conversation kind of came back to that. But yeah, so I just wanted to know what y'all thought about it. I'm sorry, was someone else trying to get in?
I do. No, I know we're running long, but I just wanted to ask another question that's kind of on this. Okay, so if you feel that it was okay for Jay-Z to do this in this manner, and he was doing it to support his wife because she wasn't getting her props, right?
I don't think that wasn't the total point. I think it was about his wife. I think it was about Black artists female Black artists not getting the respect and the recognition that they deserve. I felt like that was the point. And that
And
was
I feel like it wasn't just
did not
female.
the game because he didn't want it to become about Beyonce because he felt it was bigger than her.
I think that's why at the end he basically stated about artists showing up until you get the accolades. You continue to keep showing up until you get the CEO, until you get them, you know. So I think he kind of is a double entendre.
Exactly.
I think he kind of with some ebbs and flows, he threw in a little backsplash about his wife, you know, but I think in totality, he was talking about, just like you said, Antrice, about artists showing up and a bigger message. But I think, you know, he was still, it's sort of like, oh, everything's great. And my album's coming out next Tuesday. You know, it was sort of like one of those types of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But what was the question you were going to ask, Michelle?
My question was then, do you then think that it was proper for Kanye in 2009 to interrupt Taylor Swift?
No, it was not.
No, that was rude.
That was rude.
And watermelon.
Right, because Jay-Z did it on his own speech.
On his own speech. He didn't.
And Kanye just blurted out on somebody else's dime.
Right. Yeah, he came up and took somebody else's. Because again, I think that a lot of the clips that are out there circulating on social media and the headlines are, oh, Jay-Z said this about Beyonce, but when you listen to the whole speech, it was about like Black art. To me, it was about Black artists not getting their just due from the Grammys. Like, okay, we're going to give you this Grammy, but we're not going to televise it, or we're not going to put you in this category, or blah, blah, blah. So I think that was the whole thing, but everybody just took that one clip. And so then when I listened to the whole thing, I was like, oh, this wasn't really about Beyonce.
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah,
right.
I kind of agree with Lava. Oh, yeah, my album comes out next week.
Right.
I think he wanted to kill two birds with one stone. And he was using what do they call a smoking glass so that you couldn't see everything. That's why he mentioned DMX.
Mm-hmm. Like a smoke screen.
Smoke screen, that's it.
Yes.
Really, because he was very passionate about that when it happened. Like, he didn't attend when he was nominated because he was so incensed that DMX did not get the recognition that he deserved. So I don't think that was a smokescreen for him. I think this is something Jay-Z is very passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
But my album's coming out on Tuesday.
But does that answer your question, Michelle?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Kanye's thing was totally different. That was, we do not stand behind that. We do not condone that. When I say we, you know what I mean.
Not we, but we.
All right, y'all. So of course my source for that was the Grammys, YouTube, because I didn't see that part on the show because my power was out. All right. We're going to keep it at the Grammys, and we're going to talk about another little incident that happened at the Grammys. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the rapper Killer Mike. He is an Atlanta-based rapper. He is also an activist. He was very heavy in supporting Bernie Sanders' campaign for presidency. And Killer Mike had a little hiccup at the Grammy Awards this year. He was nominated for and won 3 Grammys, which were also not televised. But at some point, he was walking into the Grammys, and they're not sure. The stories are very vague. They're not sure if this was his first time entering or if he had entered, left, and was entering again. But he had a problem with what he described as an overzealous security guard. So I guess the security guard was telling him, like, no, you can't come in this entrance. And Killer Mike and his team just kind of pushed past the security guard. And I say push just as I don't know if they actually pushed him, like they walked past the security guard. They went in when they were told not to go in. So he was arrested for that and charged with, let me look at my notes so I get this right.
Is it battery?
It was misdemeanor battery. Yeah, so he was arrested at the ceremony, charged with misdemeanor battery, and escorted out in handcuffs. So there he is being escorted out of the arena in handcuffs. Killer Mike says he's confident that he'll be cleared of all the charges. And he was released later on in time to go to some post-Grammy celebrations and celebrate his 3 awards. So Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. He was talking about this situation and he was like, I think this is a conspiracy against Killer Mike. I don't know why it would be a conspiracy against him, but has anyone else been escorted out of the Grammys in handcuffs? Charlemagne also suggests that maybe this is because some statements that Killer Mike made on the Bill Maher show the Friday prior. Bill Maher and Killer Mike were sitting together one-on-one at the time. And Bill Maher asked Killer Mike if he would endorse either Biden or Trump for the presidency. Mike would not respond with a name. He just said, vote for the policies that you are behind. Don't think about the man, think about the policies. And when Bill Maher asked him, are you going to say vote for Biden or are you going to vote for Biden? Killer Mike has some kind of responses, questions. Is Biden going to do this? Is Biden going to do that? But there are clips out there on the internet that you can go and see. So that was Charlemagne's conspiracy theory. Like, maybe it's the Democrats coming after Killer Mike.
Oh, Lord.
Divas, what do you think? Do you think that the LAPD went too far by escorting him out the building in handcuffs?
I have a question.
Misdemeanor battery.
Did the Democrats call the LAPD and tell
right?
No.
I'm more mad at the fact that they came at him for misdemeanor. And again, any crime of violence is a crime of violence, and it deserves to be. But misdemeanor battery.
Hey, listen,
Okay.
Will Smith hit Chris Rock,
and
he wasn't arrested. We all saw it. And not only that, he was able to stay and accept his awards.
That's what I'm saying. It was misdemeanor battery, and you escorted him in handcuffs? Like, was it really that serious?
Okay. I looked this up, right? Because a lot of the links were just about Killer Mike and his team and their perception of what went on. So Billboard.com gave a more neutral account of what happened. Okay, so this is just like a brief synopsis. So it said that Killer Mike, or they used his legal name,
was a woman, the guard.
Yeah. Exited a secured area at the Peacock Center and then attempted to return with several individuals, right? And then he shoved a female private security official, blocking him from returning to the Peacock Center. He was arrested and handcuffed because the security guard wanted to press charges.
He did a citizen's arrest, from what I read.
Right. It's I did hear that. Yeah.
Okay. So that, I think, gives a more complete picture.
Yeah.
It does. Because a lot of the stuff that's circulating is, the security guard was overzealous or being difficult. But these, again, are the perspective of Killer Mike
and his team.
And his people.
And his team, right? So we've said this several times on our channel. There's always two sides. There's one side, a second side, and then there's the truth somewhere
in the middle.
Exactly.
So the fact that they had to chase him down right after he shoved the security guard down kind of gives me a little pause to believe everything was the security guard's fault and that they didn't necessarily have to handcuff him. Like, I don't really know. I'm just saying that we're not given the full picture.
Thank you for rounding that picture out. Say it again.
You said what?
To the ground, from what I
And that was my thing. I was thinking, was it the fact? And you know what? And then my mind is going to a whole different place, because then I'm thinking of, okay, fine, this is a female who's working security, whatever, and he's not a small guy. Who's to say the size of her and how she got flung to the ground? The next thing I'm thinking of, she may be a security guard, but this may be her second job where she is actually law enforcement. And so have a law law enforcement agent. So then that actually, because a lot of the times, a lot of those security guards, they're part-times, right, you know, and they're doing a lot of these jobs, and they're actually law enforcement, you know, people. So I'm thinking now, my mind is, now that, you know, Michelle said that, now it's making my mind think a little bit more. You know, he's not a small guy, and there could have been other factors that came about why they did what they did.
Well, he doesn't deny shoving her or pushing her to the ground. So, I mean,
and the fact that he calls her overzealous, like, she's doing her job. And who
that was my thought. Like,
when I kept reading the words overzealous, I was like,
it's like she's doing her job. If she told you to go to the other entrance or whatever, do it. Like, that's why she's there. And thank you for citing that source. My source was actually Hollywood Unlocked and Yahoo Entertainment. But yeah, I did keep looking up this story because I almost didn't want to talk about it because there was so little out there about it. I was like, what really happened? Like, there was an overzealous security guard, and then all of a sudden you got arrested. Like, this doesn't.
There's too many holes.
No, exactly.
There's a lot of holes.
Too many holes in the story.
But thank you, Michelle, for clarifying, you know, that, because then it makes my mind kind of like think about, you know, different alternatives. And, you know, no disrespect, you know, people in blue, they're gonna stick together, you know, and that could have been it too. Oh, that's how you want to do. Okay, well, this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna get arrested.
Somebody, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Somebody, I can't remember, was it Lavelle that made the correlation with the Will Smith issue? Is this is this maybe different because it was
because she pressed charges. Okay, and they asked Chris Rock if he wanted to press charges, and he didn't.
Okay,
so that, I think that's where the difference comes in there.
Okay,
that's the funny part. Sometimes, who cares if you don't want to press charges? If the law wants to press the charges, they'll continue with the charges. If they want to press
Stallion didn't press charges against Tory Lanez, the city did.
But I also find it suspect that, okay, so he had to come out to retrieve these people, right, in order to bring them in. So maybe
they weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah, like, does that mean that they weren't supposed to be there? That he himself had to go out and use whatever clout he has and
like,
say,
this
hey,
ain't the party down the block, okay? Like, they gotta have
a barbecue
pass or something.
Yeah, because you have a lot of notable people in that theater.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of people don't know Killer Mike yet. Like, he's not Will Smith.
Right. So wait, you think if Will Smith would have came back with the homies, they would have been like, "Oh yeah, come on in."
I think if Will Smith had knocked down a security guard, they would have said, "Mr. Smith, calm down, get yourself together." Like,
that's like they did when he slapped Chris Rock. That's also could be very true.
Oh, and he wouldn't have been in handcuffs either. What they would have done was, if they were to escort him, they'd be like, "Can you come with us?" And he would have walked out.
Turn yourself in. Turn yourself in.
The man collapsed.
Can you come down and meet us at 10, you know, show up at, you know, so we can go through this.
Mind.
Yeah.
If you could just come to the station. Thank
polite.
You.
Yes.
You and Jada. The security guard didn't know he was famous. You know what I mean? Like, if that was Jay-Z, would she have approached the same way? She didn't know who Killer Mike was.
Right.
But he did leave the exit. She saw him leave the exit and then try to bring somebody back in through. So she did. I'm assuming, if I understood correctly, that she saw him leave. So you knew that he was part of the Grammys. You just didn't know who he was.
But then again, also at the same token, it becomes a security hazard. Like, you bring in people, you know.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
On another note, though, when he was talking with Bill Maher, I read in one of the articles that you had provided to us, Marnita, I liked one statement he said, and I think this is, I guess, a good statement, basically. He said, "It's your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with an enemy. It is your duty to fortify your own house so that you may be a house of refuge in time of organization." I like that statement.
I like that statement too. That don't sound like somebody who's out there pushing down female security guards. Get it right, Killer Mike. Come on now. How you gonna be out here pushing people down because they told you to go through another exit?
Hey, you can be an activist and a misogynist at the same
time. That is very true. That is very true. Because there was some statement that I also read just because I was trying to read more about his activism as well. He had repeated some statement about having ovaries or something doesn't make you qualified to be president, and it was he was talking about Hillary Clinton's presidential run. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a statement that he came up with, but he like repeated it, but it sounded all kinds of.
Yeah, Killer Mike is giving a little Kanye.
So yeah, don't quote me on that, Entourage. You can look it up for yourself. But again, I did mention it, but I just want to mention it again. Hollywood Unlocked and Yahoo Entertainment were my sources for that story. And I forgot to encourage y'all, Entourage, get in on the conversation. The Divas been having all the conversation right here. Get in on it. Let us know what you think about Jay-Z's acceptance speech, time and place. Do you agree with him? Michelle broke down the metrics. I wasn't, I'm an artist, not a mathematician. So I wasn't even thinking about the metrics. Also, let us know what you think about Killer Mike. Let us know some Killer Mike songs. We're probably gonna get off of here in my system, but y'all put us up on game. Shame us. Shame us in the comments for not knowing more about Killer Mike and his songs. All right, it's been a quick one. It's been a fun one. Divas, let's cheers. Again, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Enjoy your evening, but I don't know what time of day y'all watching this. Y'all probably watching this at work. All right. Bye.
It's happy hour somewhere around the world.
Yes.
Cheers.